Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Happy New Year, and it's Stock Saturday, first one for 2024, and it's a red one. Markets are down. S&P, from looks of it, about 1.5%, and Nasdaq about 3.5%. That's taken it a little bit harder. My portfolio has taken it much harder than that, about 6% down for the week. Most of this is Cleanspark and the gold and silver miners, interestingly, which I will come back to. But sort of the invest portfolio sort of doing a little better. Broadcom sort of taking a little bit of a hit with the rest of the tech stocks. Stellantis sort of holding up quite well, considering some of the news. But yeah, let's have a look at some of the goings on. Not a lot of earnings just yet. So we have Cleanspark's December update. This doesn't seem to have contributed a huge amount to the decline from what I've seen, because this is sort of largely positive news. They mined 720 Bitcoin in December, which is a pretty good tally from what I can see. A lot of the other miners don't seem to be sort of producing that much per exahash, so whether Cleanspark are somehow sort of getting a lot more out of ordinals, extra fees, I don't know. But yeah, 720 seems a good total for the month, so that was pretty good. And they're not selling all that much. They sold 293, and they've now got just over 3,002 Bitcoin in the treasury. So, current prices, we're sort of looking at $130 million. So that's quite a decent total for a 2 billion market cap. To have quite a large amount in the treasury, that's pretty good. And they're at 10.08 exahash. They're saying the construction on Sandersville is sort of pretty much complete. And they're just waiting for energization of the facility. That was delayed until February, they sort of said before. But yeah, all ready to go. Really, though, on Cleanspark, we are just waiting for the ETF news for price of Bitcoin to move sort of greatly one direction or the other. Bloomberg have just come out and said the SEC staff have no more comments on the filings, and they're sort of saying put the final filings in today. So this would seem really strange for them to be sort of asking, very, very sort of in detail questions all the way up till now, and to now say they have no further questions, and then next week them all get rejected. So, we're sort of 95% sure, I think, that they are going through probably Monday or Tuesday, maybe for a sort of midweek listing. So that would be presumably positive news. A lot of people still saying it'll be a sell the news event. I don't know. I think we could get a reasonably big pump, followed by sort of a retracement. Who knows? Could be sort of 10,000 green and then sort of 5,000 retrace back, and then really it's all about sort of how much flows are going to come in over the next sort of 6 months, I would say, sort of up to and after the halving. So yeah, really waiting on next week, but we'll see. So Cleanspark has had a fairly poor week, down sort of 10% or so since last week. Or yeah, the last 5-day chart is showing 23% down, but that's including part of Friday. It's actually about 7% down since last week's video. So interesting to see what happens next week. Interesting bit of news from the UK as well. It's not going to affect the car manufacturers all that much, but new legislation for electric vehicle adoption. The UK government are now saying 22% of new cars sold must be electric, or there's going to be a fine. So this is, or 10% for vans and 22% of passenger cars, and that's this year, so it's already running as of today. and this will increase. There was another article here sort of saying this is going to be 22% this year. Next year it will be 28%, 33% in 26, 38% in 27, 52% in 28, 66 in 2029, and then 80% in 2030. So quite a steep rise at the end. This is all towards sort of going basically the full ban by 2035. That was delayed back to 2035, but they are still sort of putting these minimums in already. So obviously various manufacturers are at different points in the transition. I'm sort of keeping a keen eye on this sort of regards to Stellantis, which they do have quite a lot of EVs out there, but they are still selling an awful lot of petrol and diesels. They are saying zero emissions, so one would presume even hybrids and even plug-in hybrids won't count towards any of this 22%. Has to be fully electric, so your Vauxhall Corsa EV and Fiat 500e, that sort of thing is the only ones that are going to count. I don't think Stellantis are at sort of anywhere near 22%. I think they're more in high single figures. They're sort of saying in this article, you got your BYDs and MG Smart. I didn't realise were actually sort of largely electric now. They are sort of very small cars. And then obviously Tesla are significantly ahead of the target. Tesla are at 100%. And then sort of people like BMW, Cupra, Porsche doing quite well. Obviously, they were saying the Taycan is sort of doing better than some of the older sort of, maybe not the 911, but some of the older petrol and diesel or petrol cars. Volvo as well, sort of close to or already achieving the target. They have highlighted the Japanese brands as sort of being worst off than anybody. Sort of Japanese seem to be still clinging to hybrids, if not, just petrol and diesel. But yeah, largely they've sort of stuck with the hybrids and plug-in hybrids. So they need to get a move on. Ford sort of, as they say, have an equally strong ICE mix with EVs making up just 2%. I mean, they're not going to be selling the F-150 over here because that's a gigantic truck and not really for the UK market. So yeah, they need to push on sort of quite a bit. Otherwise, they're getting a very large fine. I did do some sort of napkin maths based on the last couple of years' figures for the UK and sort of potentially how much EVs they could be selling, and sort of say for Stellantis, I come to a figure of about $350 million because they're actually saying there'll be a £15,000 fine per car for every car that you sell above the so you're allowed 78% petrol and diesel cars, and every one you sell above that 78%, there'll be a £15,000 fine. I think that was in sort of in the detail elsewhere, somewhere here. But yeah, so based on how many cars I think they would be selling, could be sort of $300 to $450 million fine. Obviously, if Stellantis are looking at 18 billion euros profit for the whole year, it's not really a massive dent in the profit, but it's not something that they want to be taking on. They have said there's various ways around it. You can borrow from next year's allowance potentially, sort of betting that you're bringing out a load of cars next year. Next year will be a lot better than this year, so you can sell 12% electric this year and 32% of electric next year, and that would be fine. Or you can sort of similar to what Tesla were doing before, you can buy an allowance from other manufacturers. Whether that's, I presume that would be cheaper than the fine. So yeah, potentially pay Ford and Stellantis and people like that paying Tesla for allowances, because they're saying if you sell more than 22% electric, you can sell your allowance to other manufacturers. So that might be a way around it. But interesting. We have to see where this sort of goes, if it's mentioned in the sort of quarterly or annual report, I guess, in February from Stellantis. So just looking at some of the news, I didn't really get a whole lot of news. Obviously, New Year's Day on the Monday. It was really sort of all started on Thursday with sort of US job news. The ADP non-farm employment was a beat, high figure, and jobless claims sort of both down and lower than expected. UK house price index still baffling me, sort of expecting flat, and it was 1.1% up for December. So crazy, back in the green overall year on year now, 1.7%. So yeah, people can afford these rates, I'm guessing. EU inflation came in sort of slightly below expectations, 2.9% on the headline and 3.4% on core, only provisional, so they could get revised, but yeah, we'll see. And then US news, basically all positive. Hourly earnings up, non-farm payrolls was a big beat, and it's not all just government jobs. Government jobs did beat the expectation, but private jobs were quite a bit above expectation as well. And unemployment was expected to rise, but didn't. So still at 3.7%. Whether this is fiddled figures and sort of people having 2 or 3 jobs counting as what, more than one person, we don't really know, but yeah, interesting. And then you did have some sort of ISM, I always call it the sort of bellwether for the US economy, the non-manufacturing PMI. Was quite a bit below expectations and last month, 50.6. So anything below 50 is sort of considered an economic contraction. So that's not great. Non-manufacturing employment was massively below the expectation and sort of well below 50. So yeah, whether that's a one-off, we don't really know, but we'll see. So as I say, portfolio-wise, it's sort of mostly everything's down. Most of the stuff in the invest account sort of down a few percent. Not really a huge hit there. It's the ISA that's sort of taken the brunt of the hit. Cleanspark down 5% just today, but has been dropping despite Bitcoin being higher than last week, especially with the ETF news potentially coming. Whether people were sort of buying things like Cleanspark and Coinbase and MicroStrategy as a sort of a proxy, and they're now sort of expecting that they might be able to buy the ETF itself. Who knows? But yeah, that's taken a hit. Coeur mining, the sort of gold and silver miners, likewise, really. Gold and silver both sort of at reasonably good prices, and miners sort of coming down. So interesting. Whether that's just the market coming down and everything taking a hit, don't know. But I'm positive as long as the metal prices themselves are up. Similar show as well for Pan American and KGHM, sort of down a little. But metals not looking all that bad, I didn't think. And the invest account, sort of Chinese tech, still languishing around the same prices. And options on, obviously, my stocks that have come down, the option prices have come down as well. I did make some small, well, actually a reasonably big change just now. It doesn't really show here, but I had some Cleanspark options. I think 8 of these 11 were for end of this year, and I sold all of those and rebought some end of 2025 options. So cost a little bit of money. I didn't really get ideal prices, but I'm a lot happier with having sort of end of 2025. That is really where I see the potentially the highest peak. Rather, even if this year is going to do well, I would just prefer to have 2 years to run on those. So some of those are, I think it was a mix between $15 strike, so it's at $10 now. I'm betting it's going to be above $15, and some above $20, which is a bit high. But I guess if the ETF news is good and we sort of get some reasonable flows, I still think the miners will do well. So I may sort of get out of the stock, Cleanspark stock itself, and buy the iShares ETF if we were allowed to, and maybe just keep these options as part of my Cleanspark holding. But it depends. We'll see. But I do think the 20, betting a Cleanspark above $20 is maybe a little bit of a risk, but you got to have a bit of risk. So, yeah, that's pretty much the portfolio for the week. Not sort of too much else to say. Waiting on sort of earnings and bits later in the month. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and like and subscribe. See you soon.